Good afternoon, everybody, here on the Sunset Safari, and a special warm welcome to the children of Henry B. Birkland Elementary School in Massachusetts, not Virginia, and Hampton Oaks, our old favourites from Virginia Beach in, unsurprisingly, Virginia. Kids, I hope you're having a wonderful day today at school. My name is James Henry. You can see that, I hope, from what you can see there. I'd love to have any questions that you have for me today, and also for my friends Brent and who's the other one out here? Brent and Tristan. Yes, three of us out here exploring in the greater Kruger National Park of South Africa, the world's most beautiful country. Okay, and the way you ask a question, of course, is just to ask your teacher, and she will then send it through magically to my ear, and I will hear you. So any questions you have, shout. What we're going to do is drive down this road, and then we're going to go to an enormous waterhole, where hopefully we're going to find lots of interesting creatures. We may find lots of other creatures on the way there. There are some 300 birds that you might find here, 300 different kinds of birds. There are lots and lots of different trees and flowers, and lots of interesting mammals. And in fact, there's something quite interesting way in the distance over there. Let me just have a quick look with my binoculars. Fergus, can you see way on the long... There's a tree quite far away. Oh, it's a nest. It's an enormous nest. In fact, yes, that's the one you've got. Then we've got a question from Hampton Oaks about how hot it is in Africa. Well, that's like asking, how hot is it in Canada and the United States and Mexico and China. So Africa is a massive, massive, massive place. And in some parts of Africa right now, like in the northern parts, it's very, very different weather-wise from what it is here in the south. We are going into winter. In the northern parts, they're going into spring and into summer. So right now, where I'm sitting in South Africa, it's probably about, I'm guessing, 24 or so degrees Celsius, which is a very pleasant 75 or so degrees Fahrenheit. And so that's very nice out here. But in some parts of Africa, well, it's a lot hotter than that, and in some parts it's much colder. On the heights of or slopes of Kilimanjaro, it's probably close to freezing, if you can believe it. Anyway, so there are lots of different temperatures out here. Now we're going to go across on foot. There's one person walking around here looking for interesting creatures, and that is Brent Leo Smith.
Hello everyone. Yes, we're on foot in the African bush, and a big welcome to your very special school safari. I'm looking for leopard at the moment. So there's been a female leopard in this area, and I'm hoping we find her footprints. And once we find her footprints, we'll try see where she's walked and see if we can find her. This female leopard has cubs at the moment, so we've got to go very, very carefully. So we're looking for leopard footprints, which are quite difficult to see. And we've got an impala footprint, which is an antelope that I'm sure we will see on this drive. And you can see, much easier to see, a leopard walks so much more softly. A leopard track on this hard soil would look something like this. Just like that. So that's what makes leopards much harder to find than impala. Okay, let's keep moving. Hello, Chelsea. Yes, there are lots of snakes in Africa, Chelsea. Big ones, small ones, striped ones, spotted ones, black ones, green ones, blue ones. And the biggest snake we get here is called the African rock python. And they can reach lengths of nearly 6 meters. And so I'm 2 meters. So let me show you. Let me draw a line in the sand here. So let's pretend this is the snake's tail. The snake can be this big. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The snake can be that big, and it can get this fat. And they can eat impala. They can even sometimes catch little leopards and lions to eat. Now, you've met James, and you've met me. One more person who's taking you on safari today, and that's Tristan.
Indeed we are. So you've met our eldest two members of the Safari Live guiding team, and now with myself. And as Brent mentioned, my name is Tristan, and on camera is Craig this afternoon. So we are going to try and see this afternoon if we can find you guys a leopard. So that's where we're going to try and check. We had a female leopard that's been hanging around in an area very close to where we are right now, and so we're going to try and see if we can pick up her tracks. Hopefully we will be able to find her, and remember that you'll then be able to ask lots of questions about her and any other animals that we might see as we go along. Just remember to send them to your teacher, and then we'll be able to answer them. Good. Now, it's very exciting because the sun is shining. It's been 2 days of no sun, so I'm happy to be out in the sun itself. Now, Luca, the leopard's cub, who is obviously the cub of the female that we're looking for, is now about just over 6 months old. So it's getting nice and big and is going to be kind of soon starting to hunt for itself and trying to chase things, and it's at a really playful age at this time of its life, and so it's a really kind of nice time to see a leopard cub. When they're very, very small, they're very cute, but they often are quite shy and they don't like to really be seen. But as they get a little bit older, so they then start to become quite playful, and you see them going up and down in the trees and doing all kinds of things. So let's hope that our little leopard cub is out and about. We haven't seen it for well over a week now, so it's going to be nice to catch up with it and try and see what's going on. Now, I see I've got something on my dashboard which I should get rid of fairly shortly. It's a bit of tape that's on my dashboard. Don't know where it came from, but we'll try and have a little look. Ooh, Catherine, it depends. It doesn't always have the same kind of amount every day, so we'll have a situation where some days we'll see lots and lots and lots of animals. There'll be lots of impalas and elephants and buffalo and lions and leopard, and other days it's very, very quiet and the animals are hidden and it's tough to find them. So it's the best thing about safari is that you just never know. So some days you're going to see a lot, other days you're not, and that's what makes it exciting, is because you just don't know what you're going to see around any corner that you drive around. So hopefully today is going to be one of those busy days for all of you, and that you'll be able to see lots and lots of Africa's little treasures. But we'll just have to wait and see. I think with the sun shining, we're in for a good chance of seeing some very cool things. So that's hopefully going to kind of be the situation. Now, talking about cool things, we have probably some of the most beautiful birds here in South Africa, and James has managed to find some of them.
Well, yes, we do have some of the most beautiful birds in the world here in South Africa. These ones are not perhaps our most beautiful birds. Those are called wattled starlings. Wattled starlings. And they're called wattled starlings because they have their little thing below their throats, a little bit like a turkey, called a wattle. Now, you've all seen turkeys before, possibly on the Thanksgiving table, but before they arrived on the Thanksgiving table, they had long pink things that hung underneath their faces, and those are called wattles. And these starlings, when they're ready to mate, have got black wattles that hang down below their faces. Aren't they beautiful? Now, Tatiana, you want to know how many bird species there are in Africa. Well, in Africa, there are about 2,000 bird species, if I'm not mistaken, and there's some more up there, Fergus. We've got some other starlings just on that tree over there. Fergus, by the way, is on camera. And Tatiana, remember, we are in a very small part of Africa down here, and where we are, there are over 300 bird species have been seen from time to time. The Kruger National Park, which is the big reserve that we are in, has probably about 550 species of bird, and in the whole of Africa, the country I live in, called South Africa, has about 950 to 1,000 species, and the whole of Africa, about 2,000 species of birds, and those were other starlings, and I'll just quickly find them in my book for you, so I can show you the beautiful starling species that we get here. There they are. And what I think we were looking at there was the greater blue-eared glossy starling, and that's him there. He's got beautiful colours when you see him in nice light. And then I'll just quickly show you the wattled starling and why he's called wattled. He's on the page behind, I think. 1 second. No, he's not even on that page. There he is. There's the male, and you can see the wattles there. Those are those black things there are called wattles. And you can imagine a pre-Thanksgiving turkey gobbling about with those pink wattles that they have underneath their faces. Good! Those are the starlings. Chelsea, you want to know if all animals in Africa are mean? Chelsea, no, the animals in Africa are not mean. In fact, very few of them are mean. The meanest animals in Africa are, of course, human beings. We're the meanest animals in all the world. And although some of the animals in Africa are predators like lions and leopards, they're not mean. I mean, they eat meat, they kill things like impala, which are the most common antelope we have, but as you all know, going back to the theme of the turkey, we all eat meat as well, don't we? Or many of us eat meat, and so, you know, to call a lion mean because it eats meat would be very unfair, because we eat meat as well, don't we? Anyway, many of the animals out here can become threatened by us. They are afraid of us, and when they are afraid of us, sometimes they can react by becoming angry with us, and that's what gives some people the impression that they are mean. But no, they aren't mean. I suppose if there was one animal that I was to say, well, he might be a bit mean, I would say it would be a crocodile, because crocodiles, well, they can be a bit mean if people are waiting at the water or going down to fetch water to drink, then sometimes they can jump out and grab people. They're one of the only animals here that will actively try and eat human beings. But the rest of the animals don't. They just want to keep away from us. So there are very few mean creatures in all the world. Kenny, you're wondering about the largest mammal in Africa. Well, the largest mammal in Africa is the largest land mammal in the world. And that, of course, is the African elephant, which weighs in excess of 13,000 pounds. Can you believe it? 13,000 pounds. That's what a big elephant weighs. Of course, the biggest animal in all the world is the blue whale. And I've even forgotten how much they weigh. I think they weigh about 30 tons, if I'm not mistaken. It's about 30,000 kilograms, about 75,000 pounds. Isn't that amazing? That is absolutely enormous. Alrighty, we're going to keep going down towards our waterhole. While we do that, let's go back to Brent Leo Smith and find out what he's found on his very big shoes.
What is that? It's Senzo pretending to be a big python coming through the grass. Now, we're in the bottom of a riverbed here. This is a really good habitat for a big snake like a python. You can see there's some rocks that it might like to hide in. And so we do get lots of snakes, but we only see them when we're there very, very lucky. Now, I've been lucky enough to even see baby rock pythons. So yes, Bailey, female rock pythons do lay eggs in holes. Quite often they'll use termite mounds, so old big ant mounds. They will lay their eggs there. Sometimes in crevices around rocks like this, they will lay their eggs. Now, pythons are not dangerous to human beings, even though they're the biggest snake we get here. The one big reptile that is very dangerous for human beings that we get out here, and you might be lucky enough to see one with James where he's heading, is the crocodile. And there's some big crocodiles in the waterhole where James is going. But we get very happy when we see snakes. We don't see snakes that often. Most snakes are more scared of you than we are of them. And the snakes will feel the vibrations of us walking and try get away from us. Now, I'm trying to think. The last time I saw a snake was last week. Russell, a lot of different snakes have venom. Exactly, I'm not 100% sure, but I'd say probably at least 15 species that occur here. Let's think about it. So we've got Mozambique spitting cobra. We've got the black mamba, which is the most venomous snake in Africa. They also get very big. Mozambique spitting cobra, puff adder, night adder. Am I going absolutely blank here? Boomslang, vine snake, snouted cobra or Egyptian cobra. They're not as common here as the Mozambique spitting cobra. And Nkiti's cobra doesn't occur here. Quite a few of your little wolf snakes, stiletto snake. So probably at least 15 to 20 species that we get here are venomous. And we got a lot of other species. Most of the species are not venomous. Who knows? While we're sneaking around here, we might get lucky enough to find one. Let's keep checking. Now, it's a good place to look for snakes, but it's also a good place to look for leopard footprints. Now, snakes, when they get bigger, they have to come out of their skin. Their skin isn't like ours, it's not elastic. So, Chelsea, snake skin is made out of keratin. So, very similar to what your fingernails are made out of. And they're able to shed that when they get bigger and grow a new one. And when snakes are shedding their skin, they are very vulnerable, and they can also be very aggressive. That's because they can't see properly yet. Now, of course, when I'm walking in the bush, I'm not worried about snakes. I'm far more worried about big, scary animals like elephant and buffalo. So the snakes normally move away. I'm very excited when I find snakes. I'm very excited when I find buffalo and elephant. So hopefully we'll find one of those three. In the meantime, I wonder where Tristan's going to next.
Well, hopefully we will find them somewhere here, Brent. As you say, we're busy driving in an area where we thought we heard some alarm calls, and it's the last place that Herbie, who was on walk with James this morning, had tracks for this leopard and her cub. So we're just checking to see if maybe we can find what's going on here. Maybe there's a situation where this mother and cub are just relaxing in the shade somewhere and having a little bit of downtime. Often what you'll find is in the hot part of the day, now when the sun is up, that leopards like to find a shady spot, and that's where they'll try and kind of spend the majority of the day. And so on my left hand side is a very thick area with a big steep bank that goes down. And the steep bank goes into a drainage line, and leopards love drainage lines. They like to be inside there. It's dense and it's perfect for them to be able to hide themselves and be able to stay hidden from all of the animals that they like to hunt, as well as any of the predators like lions or hyenas. And so you find leopards often in these kind of areas, and when you hear a few alarm calls, then it's always good to go and check that out. Sometimes things like squirrels, when they alarm call, are seeing a snake or a bird of prey or an owl or something like that, and it's not really useful, but sometimes it is the leopard itself, and so it's always worth trying to investigate and trying to see. Now, this way I don't think we're going to be able to go. It's a little bit thick on that side, so we're going to try and find another way around. So Kenyan African leopards, well, it depends on where in Africa you're seeing that leopard. So here in South Africa, or this particular female that we're looking for, our leopards are some of the sort of biggest leopards that you get in Africa, and that's because they're in an area with lots of big animals and big prey items that they can hunt, and lots of diversity, so there's lots of food for them here. So the female we're looking for, she's probably about, I would say, about 90 pounds, somewhere around there, 80 to 90 pounds, and that's quite big for a female. And then the males here will probably go as much as close to 200 pounds, which is very, very big. If you go to other parts of Africa and you go to the deserts or the mountains, then the leopards get much smaller, and the males will be the same size as our females that we're looking for, and the females will be very small, under sort of 40 pounds, which is very, very small. And they are lighter because they hunt smaller things. Jody, in terms of babies, even though this female's only got one little cub, you'll find a situation where they'll have Probably they can have as many as 4, so generally though average is 2. So in this particular area, that's because normally we've got a very high density of things like hyena and lions, and it means that the sort of litters are often smaller. If you go to areas where there's no sort of predators or no other animals that are dangerous to leopards, you often find their litter sizes get bigger, and so leopards having 4 is not uncommon. Here, I've never seen a leopard having 4 cubs in this particular area or even heard about it, so it's a little bit different in this particular section. Now, we're struggling to find anything because the grass is so long, and so we're looking as we go, checking all the trees, checking the shady spots, and so while we do that, let's send you back across to James, who I think has got another bird he wants to show all of you.
I have got another bird, and this bird is called a guinea fowl. And it's an African bird, and sometimes, you can find a bird like this in places like America, where they are farmed for food sometimes. And I know that you can get them in America, but over here, well, we don't eat these ones. These are just the ones that we view, and they live very comfortably and happy here in the greater Kruger National Park. Aren't they beautiful? Look at their lovely blue colors. And they look just very peaceful as they pick the seeds off the tops of the grass. Now all of you at Henry B. Birkeland are wondering about this thing called alarm calls. Well, the thing about alarm calls is it's like a shout of distress. So if you were, if you're walking around on the playground and somebody gives you a fright, you'll go, "Ah!" Well, that kind of noise is a human alarm call, a scream, and other birds do it. You also might shout, "Watch out, watch out." If you saw a snake, for example, on the playground, you'd shout at your friends, "Watch out." And that's what an alarm call is. So the birds and the mammals around here, if they see a predator, they make different kinds of sounds, and that sound basically means to everyone else in the area, watch out, don't come here, there's a predator, there's danger. And guinea fowl actually do the same thing. They can make a very strange alarm call that goes... Doesn't really sound too much like that, but it sounds a little bit like that, and that's what the guinea fowls sound like when they're alarm calling. And they're just trying to find grass seeds. That's what they're doing there. You can see them pecking around there. And I would think that this flock of guinea fowls probably lives up in a tree not far from here. Ooh. And I've spotted something else quite interesting. Now, Luca, you're wondering what they eat? Well, they eat grass seeds. They're just wandering around through the grass, picking the seeds off the ground and picking them off the actual grass. Now, just down here, I saw some warthogs, which, of course, are African pigs. Them up again. Tatiana, you're wondering if tigers live in Africa. Tigers live.
Right, now I believe James unfortunately has got a few technical issues, but we found something interesting to show you. Now, inside a little mound here that's been built by an insect called termites, there is a little creature that is hiding. There you go, look at its little head sticking out. So this is one of our lizard species that we get out here, and they often will use a termite mound in order to try and stay safe. The thing is, though, is that it's been cold, like I was telling you, and that means that these lizards, unfortunately, they need a bit of sunshine to warm up their body because they are cold-blooded. So they're not like us, which have warm blood. They have to use the sun to heat up their body and to be able to then move and to be able to hunt and find the food that they need. And so they sit inside here, and then when the sun comes out, they'll come and sit on the edge, and they'll just kind of warm up, getting the sun on their body, get their blood working, and then they can go and look for food. And these guys will eat mostly insects. That's what they're going to be after. And you can see it's just kind of peering out, and it looks how amazing the camouflage is on this guy. If you kind of didn't pay attention and you drove too fast past here, you would very quickly miss this particular sort of lizard. You see that? Isn't that amazing? And then if a predator does come and it does see them, what it will do is it just dives into the termite mound and goes into that little hole that it's sitting in and tries to disappear inside there so that the predator can't get to it. Because mostly what's going to be hunting these guys is things like birds, big birds of prey, and you'll find other predators would be snakes, and you'll have, what else? Things like even a leopard will go after a lizard like this, a young leopard. So this little leopard cub I was saying is going to start hunting soon. This little leopard cub might try and go after lizards like this, not only because of hunting for food, but also because it will be a good game to chase a lizard. And cats have that instinct to give chase when things scuttle away from them. So you might find that little leopard cub would try and kind of go after this particular lizard. But the lizard has a big, strong house, and it would be very difficult for anybody to get close. Good, well, we'll leave our little lizard in peace. We don't want to disturb it in any way, and we're going to try and keep going. I want to try and get out of this area now because it's gone quiet. It doesn't sound like there's any sort of more alarm calls. Now, Tatiana, no tigers in Africa. Unfortunately, I wish there was, to be honest, because it would be nice to see a tiger. But no tigers here. We only have lions, leopards, and cheetah. And I say only, but that's quite a lot in terms of big cats. We're very lucky that we get to see 3 of the world's big cats. It's very, very, very cool that we have all of those. Now, tigers, unfortunately, will occur in India and a little bit in Asia. And they've lost a lot, and they used to be in China too, but which I suppose is Asia, but they've lost a lot of their habitat because of people hunting them and poaching them. Now, poaching is basically when people go after an animal illegally, and it's very, very bad. And so poor tigers are very threatened at the moment, and there's not very many of them left in the world. So hopefully we'll have a situation where somebody will protect them, and we'll have a sort of growth in the population of tigers going forward. Right, now let's see, maybe our leopard is somewhere close by here. This is the perfect kind of place for a leopard. Very thick, very shady. It's the kind of areas that we often see leopards moving about in. So we have to keep our eyes peeled, make sure that we're looking very carefully, even also to look on the ground for any signs of their paw prints, because as they walk, they'll leave a little paw print behind, particularly on the sandy sections. And so it's important to pay attention and to see what we're kind of trying to sort of look for, and to make sure that there's some paws around. Right, now while I get off towards the sort of drainage line again, because I've gone off course a little bit, let's send you back across to Brent, who I think is heading in this direction to come and give me a hand.
Well, hello. Now, here's a big termite mound, and when the termites leave, it becomes home to a lot of other animals. Now, this hole, and it's quite a big one here, was dug by an animal called an aardvark. But after that, aardvarks will move and have lots of burrows like this. Normally, warthogs will come take over. Sometimes hyenas. Other times, even leopards will use this as a place to store their babies. Now, I know no one's living here at the moment. I can tell by this grass here. I can tell by the spider webs. And I can tell that the fact that there's no footprints. But if there were warthog tracks here, we wouldn't be standing in front of this hole, because the warthog might bowl us over like 10-pin bowling, except we would probably fly much further than the pins. Now, I always like to use termite mounds to also just get up a little bit high and see what I can see around. Make sure there's no potentially dangerous animals like elephant or buffalo close by, so I can have a quick look. Make sure nothing's here. See if I can spot anything. And there's nothing. Well, Henry, you are asking a very difficult question. How many different types of mammals live here? Well, let's count them, Henry. But the large mammals, you've got elephant, rhino, buffalo, giraffe, wildebeest, zebra. What are we on? 6 there. Kudu, inyala, impala, bushbuck, duiker, steenbok. What are we on now? 12. Now we'll do some predators. If I can't remember. Did I say buffalo? I didn't say buffalo, did I? Buffalo, lion, leopard, wild dog, cheetah, caracal, serval, honey badger. Oh, I'm going blank. I know there's about 30 odd carnivores, so plus the mammals, you're probably sitting around 60 species, and that's not even including little mice, so there's probably a good 4, 5, 6 maybe different species of mice, and bats, another 10 different species of bats. So we're probably looking at close on 70 or 80 mammal species in total in this area. Of course, a lot of them we don't see very often because a lot of them are very small, like the mice and the bats. Now, I know you saw a big lizard with Tristan, Kenny, but however, we do not get Komodo dragons here. Komodo dragons live on the island of Komodo in Indonesia. That's where they get their name from. So we have a relative of the Komodo dragon here. It is called a monitor lizard, but they don't get nearly as big as a Komodo dragon. A Komodo dragon is just a really big monitor lizard, though. Let's have a quick look, see if there are any cool bugs here. Doesn't look like it. Let's go across to James, who's got something that likes to eat bugs.
Yes, it likes to eat bugs and chameleons and sometimes even small mice. And what else does it eat? Like sometimes fruit even. And that is the yellow-billed hornbill, which many of you, of course, will recognize from the Lion King. There he goes. That was the same bird that Zazu was in the Lion King. They're very beautiful birds. I wonder where he flew. And you got him there. Oh, it's a red-billed hornbill. That's a different kind of hornbill. There we go. And the yellow bill in the background. What I think they're looking for there are termites. They love to eat termites. And there are lots and lots of termites here. And I know in the Americas you guys struggle with termites eating your furniture and bits and pieces of your houses. We don't tend to have too much trouble with that out here. But certainly these hornbills couldn't survive without all of the termites that there are to eat. Termites taste a little bit like peanut butter. Can you imagine eating termites on your peanut butter sandwich? Your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches? Imagine that was a termite and jelly sandwich. Mmm. Mmm. Right. Hello, Gabby. You want to know if I have a long drive to get to the safari? Well, I actually live on the reserve, so no. I have about a 30-second walk. In fact, less than that. 10-second walk to get on my safari. But if you live, say, in Johannesburg, which is the biggest city in South Africa, well, then you've got a long drive, about 6 hours to get to where we are here. But no, all of us who work here, Brent and Tristan and me, well, we've got about 10 seconds to walk. We don't have to drive to work. We just climb out of our rooms into the cars and then we're on safari straight away. Isn't that fun? We basically live on safari. Now we're getting quite close to the waterhole now, and with any luck we'll find some hippos there, and we might even find a few other things. Adriana, you're wondering if animals can get too hot or too cold. The answer is absolutely they can. Well, depends on the animal, of course. But, you know, out here, animals like birds and all of the mammals, sometimes they get a bit cold, and in winter they get long coats, and that helps to keep them warm. And if it gets really, really freezing here, then some animals will actually die of the cold. But it doesn't get very cold here. And if it gets really hot, then animals must find shade and they must go and lie in the water, just the same as you when you get hot or cold. There, oh, they've flown away. There was some Egyptian goose. There, they've gone down to the water as well. There's one. That's called an Egyptian goose. And remember, although it's called an Egyptian goose, we are nowhere near Egypt. Very pretty bird. It likes to live somewhere near water, but you know, quite interesting, although they are water dwelling and they swim a lot, they only eat vegetation most of the time. And that vegetation is normally grass or grass seeds, and often, if they're in the water, something called algae. Righty, we're going to head down towards the waterhole. While we do that, let's go back across to Tristan and see if he's managed to find his leopard yet.
Well, we've just found looking for, so it's not the actual leopard, but we found what I wanted to find, which is her footprints. So on the road over here is where our leopard has walked during the course of the day. Now you can see very difficult to see anything over here. It looks like just tire tracks, but I will show you exactly what I am talking about shortly. So I'll have to get out to show you exactly where these are. But if you have a look over here, this is where our leopard has walked. Let me get my shadow out the way. But here is one foot, and there is another foot. Now, this is how we try and find our leopards and our lions and a lot of the cat species, is because they leave behind a footprint. Now, what she's done is she's come out onto the road and she's walking down the road. Now, the reason I know she's walking down the road is because of certain things that the tracks look like. So, if we have a look in the front, maybe this one's going to be better, Craig. Can you see that one, Craig? Good. So you've got the toes, 1, 2, 3, 4. So toes pointing forward. And then on the back here, we've got 1, 2, 3 lobes. And it's kind of a triangular shape at the back. And on the front, there's no sign of any claws. So these tracks are definitely for a leopard. We know it's a female because of the size. If it was a male, it would be much, much bigger, almost double the size of what we're seeing here. So these are really good fresh tracks. They're going down the road, so we're going to try and follow them and see if maybe we can find her somewhere close by. Brent says to me that he's not very far away, so that's good news because he on foot can follow them step by step, and then I can try and jump around and loop around to try and these are really nice tracks. Like I say, they're on top of where the guys were driving this morning. So during the day, she's been walking around. And that might mean that she left the cubs somewhere here and that she's now gone off to try and go and do some hunting. Carefully where they go from here, because it's difficult to see the tracks. And so while I look and make sure, I'll quickly send you across to Brent.
Hello everyone. Sorry about that. Tristan seems like he's found a bit of a bad area. You might see Herbie there. Herbie is our game scout. He's also a phenomenal tracker. So we weren't far away from where Tristan was. So we've now picked up our pace and we're heading straight towards where those leopard tracks are. Because leopard tracks are easier to follow on foot than they are in the car. So we're coming down towards that area. Oh, you okay there, Herb? There's a hole. Hi, Livia. Livia, yes. Lions and cheetahs are definitely enemies. Lions are enemies of pretty much everything out here. And even sometimes enemies of each other. So, yes, lions are definitely enemies. A quick look. Thought I saw something there. No, false alarm. We're nearly out onto the road where Tristan was, and this is where we think the leopard was this morning, was in this big line of green trees ahead of us. Okay, I'm going to have a quick chat with Tristan, and we're going to figure out exactly where this leopard's going. In the meantime, James has got something that's big and fat and likes to wallow in the water.
We do look, we've got beautiful hippos, and this is a lovely sighting of hippos because the hippos are normally out or normally very deep in the water. You can see some of them very deep in the water and you can just see their heads, but the rest of them are out and they're playing, especially the little ones. It's just beautiful to see them like this. And we don't often see them playing around like this. Normally it's just the ears and the noses that you can see. Lots of hippopotamus here. I wonder if you can count them. You count how many hippos we've got there? I'll count 2. I'm going to count quietly and then I'll tell you how many I think there are and you can tell me how many you think there are. 1, 2. Well, Catherine, that's a quite nice question. You say, does it ever rain here? It does. It doesn't rain very much, though. And the last time it rained was about 2 days. In fact, it was yesterday. It rained yesterday. Quite a lot. And without rain, a waterhole like this would never get full because there are not many rivers in this particular area, which means that for a waterhole like this to form, there has to be quite a lot of rain that gathers and is captured in this waterhole. So yes, it absolutely does rain, but not nearly as much as it does where you are, I suspect. Look at that little hippo showing his head. Has anyone managed to count all the hippo yet? See if you can tell me how many you think there are. Oh, and apparently a lot of you want to know about crocodiles. There are 2 crocodiles in this waterhole, but I can't see any of them at the moment. I'll take out my binoculars and see if we can spot some. No, Catherine, you want to know how many teeth crocodiles have? I actually don't know exactly. It's more than 50, though. We're probably around about 50 teeth. 25 on each. No, in fact, I'd say 50 on each jaw, so about 100 teeth. Let's go with 100 teeth for a crocodile. Isn't that a lot? Do you know how many teeth you've got? You can count your teeth. Although some of you will be missing your front teeth, of course. Olivia, you want to know if crocodiles bathe in the mud. They love mud, almost as much as hippopotamus do. But often they bathe in the sand. So rather than lying in the mushy, mulchy, quite cool mud, they'll go and lie on the sand where there isn't any mud. But they don't mind mud, like I say. Some of them quite love it. But not as much as something like a hippo or an elephant. Elephants also love mud. Now, Louis, you need to ask yourself, is this hippopotamus that you can see there, is it a mammal? And the answer is yes, of course it's a mammal. And your question is, do hippos breathe under the water? Well, if you watch all of these hippos there, just keep an eye on the ones you're looking at there. You'll see, especially that one there that's just popped up its head up behind, you will see that it has to come up to the surface every minute or so to breathe. They cannot breathe underwater. No mammal can breathe underwater. Not a whale, not a dolphin, not any mammal can breathe under the water. They must only breathe air. And in fact, no reptile can breathe under the water either. So crocodiles also, the ones we were talking about, they can't breathe under the water. Still looking to see if we can't spot your crocodile. There's not very long left in your lesson. Let's see if we can find your crocodile quickly. Oh, I don't see one. I thought I saw one, but it was a log, and that's of course a mistake that a lot of animals make. And And Bailey, very good question. You want to know if these hippopotamus there eat fish. You know, hippos use the water for sleeping in, you can see, and playing in, of course. You can see all the hippo here. None of them look like they're fishing, do they? And that's because they aren't fishing. They don't eat fish. They eat grass. And they'll come out of the water. Oh, look how big that one is. So she'll come out of the water in the night time and then start to feed on the grass all around here. Oh, now, Olivia, you also want to know if hippos are aggressive. You know, no animals out here are aggressive. Remember we spoke about whether all animals here are mean. No animals are aggressive by default. That means they're not born aggressive. No animals are born aggressive. And so, while they can be dangerous to human beings, if we get between them and the water, they have to be in the water. They love the water. So if we threaten their water or get between them and the water, well, then they can be dangerous. But they are not aggressive. They're not angry all the time. All right, everybody at school, that's going to be it for this lesson. You are now going to have to go back, of course, to your rest of your school day. I hope that it's quite fun. Don't worry, you only have 12 years left of school to go and you'll be finished. But it won't be all bad. Some of it will be quite fun, I'm sure, especially as we go towards the future. Right, let's go across to Brent now for the rest of you. And for the school kids, I hope you have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
But this morning when we were busy checking him, we had alarm call him of the trumpets. We did check, but no to. I think she came back.
Hi guys, sorry, we're having a bit of a meeting about how to try find Tandy. And I couldn't resist.
Oh, man.
Look at that, look at it, look at it.
These are things I deal with, and I have to live next door to him.
Oh, poor Tristy. Okay.
Good luck.
So there's some tracks here. Tristan had some tracks up there. We're going to try to figure out which is the most fresh. Either those tracks that Taylor was following on vertical access this morning, I've got my gut says were her, and she's done a big loop round and she's failed in hunting, and now she's come back to where the cub was. So what we're going to do is, I think Tristan, where are you going to go ahead check Giraffe Dip?
Yeah, I'll check Giraffe Dip, Hyena Road.
Hyena Road. So Tristan's going to check there, and we're going to check in between, and hopefully between us we're going to find her and Kalamba.
Good luck.
Bye.
Bye. Bye, thanks.
Herbie's circling tracks. So as I said, and these are all on top of my tracks from this morning. I drove here, so we know they are between drives. There we go. So Herbie's circled. Which way are these ones going, Herb? Oh, these are fresh. And we've got tracks going this way. There's tracks coming this way, so it's a difficult one to see. He's popped his finger in it as well, but down there, the base, there's the back pad, and there are the toes. And say tracking, if you're not really sure what you're looking at, it often looks like nothing. And as I say, maybe sometimes just a little draw of what we're actually looking at will show you there. There's the pad, although in this relatively hard substrate, it becomes a little bit more difficult to see. And you can see that's also a track there, but you can just make out the back pad. You can't even make out the toes. That's why practice makes perfect with these things. And some people can track and some people can't. And that's just part of life, I suppose. Like some people are good singers and some people aren't. And watch out, you're going to stand in leopard poo. That was close, Senzo. Senzo nearly stood in some scats. It's not that fresh, though. I'd say this is from last night, yeah. But anyway, you always don't want to stand in leopard scat. That was a close one, Senz. Okay, so Tristan and I are going to keep working this area and try to figure out exactly where Tandy and Kalamba are. In the meantime, let's go see what Master Henry's doing on Chitwa.
Well, hello. I'm now going to talk in my adult voice because the children have left us. Now, please continue to talk to us using the hashtag #SafariLive or the comment section on YouTube. I nearly said Twitter, but that won't work. You don't have a comment section on Twitter. Twitter is a comment section. Good. What do we have there? Massing barn swallows about to go home. That nostalgic time of the year that those of you who've been watching for a long time will know I bang on about. April and May as we go in towards the winter time. The summer passes. The cricket season is over. The Australians have gone back home in disgrace, and so we come to the end of our summer. And it's always a little sort of nostalgic time, really, which I quite like. And the barn swallows are about to head back to Europe, I guess, to France. I don't believe, apparently, none of the barn swallows that come here go to England. I don't know where I read that. I can't remember where I read or heard that, but apparently that's the case. So these chaps will probably go to France and Italy and other continental destinations so that they can breed, make new barn swallows, eat feta cheese or drink a good burgundy, and then come back here for the summertime. What do they eat in Spain? Paella. They could probably eat a good paella there. Anyway, that's what the barn swallows are doing. Then to the left of them, we've got the fish eagly. Well, Robert, you say these swallows have been in that same tree for 2 days. That's interesting. That is not uncommon when birds are massing for their trip to the north. So, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. There we have a gorgeous picture of a fish eagly waiting in a jackalberry tree or ebony tree for some fish. If you hear screaming and shouting, fear not. It is just a few children in Chitwa camp having a good time. And the fish eagle finds it most distasteful. Thinks it should be a bit quieter out here. Can't help but agree with him. Then we've got down towards that tree over there. Can you see it broken there? The egret, basically. I don't know why I didn't just tell you the egret, Fergus. I think that's a great white egret. As Northern Lamb's comment is very interesting. You say you get barn swallows in Canada. I believe I know that. I believe I did know that, but I'd forgotten. Thank you for that. I don't think you'll find that any of our swallows go across the Atlantic, though. And it's quite interesting that there should be two distinct populations. I'm pretty sure they are distinct, the populations that occur in North America. And I wonder, perhaps you can tell us where they migrate to, because I'm pretty sure it must be South and Central America for your winter, because I cannot imagine a barn swallow possibly surviving the sort of rigors of a Canadian winter. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that is a great egret, but am I correct? It does not have yellow feet. It could be a yellow-billed egret, but I don't think it is. I'm pretty sure that that's a great egret. Marvellous. Is it so far away? Well, yeah. Oh, Nicky says he just caught a feech. Did he catch a feech? What a clever featureman. He doesn't like to get his feet wet. Come on then, catch a fish. I must say I could sit here quite happily all day. I might need a small picnic a bit later on. Perhaps some fruitcake and a cup of tea. That would be delicious. Alrighty, I think there are a few more birds, so we're not going to go anywhere from here, but while we search for them, let's head across to Tristan, who apparently has got something interesting to tell you, but I don't know what it is.
I don't know, James. have very little to say at this stage, given that Tundi is being, well, Tundi and is being elusive. So we've kind of done a much bigger loop around now. We're just slowly getting onto Hyena Road at the moment, in the hope that maybe, just maybe, she came around the side. Nope, that's not her. And maybe she came down to these areas for water. There's a few little pans that are scattered about in this section, and so it's not a bad area for her to come and drink. There's not very much inside this block. I've done this block a few times in recent history, and so I know there's not that much water. This is the nearest water for her, either here or to the actual dam itself. So good place to be checking for her, a good sort of area just to be scanning in case she came for water after playing around with her little cub. And also it leaves Brent there to be able to try and find what's going on. What's this now? So Magic Dragon Wizard and many others. Hopefully that's not just your Twitter handle, but that of many. And like I say, I know, Nikki, I'm just being full of nonsense. But yeah, well, we think that the cub is alive. I mean, there's tracks for a cub with her, so it can't not be alive. It was running around between drives this morning with Tundi, and given that we left Tundi here last night, I'm 99% sure that the cub is still alive with her, which is fabulous news. And so that's why we're trying to work so hard, is to try and get a view of this little one. Also, I have only 2 more days left here in Djuma for a while, so I'm hoping that we can find her before I head off. So it's going to be interesting. Now, I'm not leaving Safari Live before anybody panics. I'm still going to be here, and Nikki is saying me too, because Nikki is also going to be leaving Djuma for quite some time. We are both heading off to the Mara, so I'll be gone for, at this stage, probably around 8 weeks that I'll be out of Djuma, and so I would like to see the little cub before I leave. So that's why I'm spending time kind of trying to find it this afternoon. And actually any of the leopards would be nice to see. I would like to see little Tumba come back just before I go as well. So we're going to try and see if we can find these guys and try and see where they are. I'm pretty sure Tundi is in this general vicinity. It's just a matter of actually pinpointing exactly where she's gone. I have a sneaky suspicion that Brent had the tracks of her playing and moving around there with the little one, and I think the tracks that I found further up might have been where she just left the cub for this afternoon and has now gone off hunting, very similar to what we saw yesterday, where she was up and she was moving and she was hunting and she was all over the place. The difference is though today's conditions are a little bit different. It's a little sort of warmer today and a lot more sun, so she might find that she's not going to be as active as she was yesterday afternoon, because yesterday afternoon she was in Tundi mode of note, where she was just kind of up and down and all over the place as she was going. Now I'm driving very slowly because of these little puddles on the road, puddles that are on my right hand side, and also there's a lot of big marulas that are on our left, and those big marulas are places where sometimes Tundi might use for a bit of a vantage point, and she hops up into them and then she can scan around. So it's always important to check these marula trees as you're going. It's a good place to find a leopard. The only problem is the sun is directly into our eye line, and so scanning those trees is not very easy at all. But hopefully we'll get a bit lucky, and like I say, with Brent and Herbie on the tracks, that's always a good duo to have on tracks. They generally are pretty proficient in what they are doing, and so hopefully they'll be able to pick up some signs and give us an update as to which way she's heading, or if she's still inside the drainage itself. Right, now talking about those two and an update, let's shoot you across to them and see what they have gotten up to and what updates they have for us.
Well, we're right down in the riverbed now. What we did is we walked past where we thought the tracks were, and we've come down into the river, and we're going to now move down to where we think she's keeping the cub. Now, I was just trying to see now, all of a sudden, as I was walking here, I saw the sunlight disappear, but there's some, inyala, but they are very difficult to see. They just block out the sunlight every little bit as they walk through. So we know they're not here as well. But we also know exactly where those nyala are. So if they start barking, we're in the best spot. And these nyala were just here. This is incredibly fresh. You can see how it's so fresh that when it fell, the stones and the sand have stuck to it, and if I flip it over, you can see quite a lot still sticks to it. So that's how you can tell it's very, very fresh without even having to pick it up. Now you've always got to walk a little bit more carefully when tracking a leopard, and that's not because they're going to charge you or have a go. It's because their main form of defense is camouflage. So often you'll spot a leopard, literally you'll be walking like this and you'll spot a leopard lying there, and the trick is when you do that is you pretend you haven't seen them. So you go, oh, and you just carry on walking past and then come back with the car. Thank you, oh hi Bacon. I will be careful, I always am. So far, touch wood, still intact, no punctures. We're going to keep moving very quietly through here, listening, smelling, looking. While we do that, let's send you back to James. Sounds like he's just lounging by the waterhole today.
I am lounging about. I'm watching the fish eagly. It's going to go past the pole. Sorry about that. That is the communication tower here at Chitwa. And the fish eagly is trying desperately to gain some height. It's almost like it's trying to get away from here. I'm not sure why. It gave a big fright to our egret, which has another friend with it now. There we go. You can see how far away the fish eagly was. And we go across to our egret, and he's got a new friend called a darter. Now, I have very seldom seen darter here. And there is a darter sitting with the fish eagly trying to dry its wings. Now, I also heard, I think it was Tristan, explaining that the darter needs to, oh no, I think it was Steve, explaining that the darter's got to have his wings out like that to dry them because they do not have the same oils that get rid of water or make the feathers waterproof, because of course they have to swim under the water. And Nikki's just telling me that they've been seeing, you have been seeing these darters for 2 weeks now, which is very interesting because I haven't seen any here before. Very interesting. No, Nicola, it is not one, it is two. There are two here. There is the one. The other one is sitting above the hippopotami. There it is. It is a darter. Yes, it is. I thought for 1 second it might be a cormorant. That is very nice to get one over Nicola sometimes. You know, most of the time it's one has to be abjectly apologetic. Maybe they'll settle in here. Now, there was one other bird I wanted to show you, but I don't remember where it's gone. First lady, you want to know if fish eaglies eat only fish or if they eat other stuff too? No, they eat lots of other stuff. They actually eat other birds. There's wonderful footage, I think it's the BBC again, who got fish eagles killing or trying to kill flamingos. So they'll take something as big as a flamingo. Whenever they leap off the trees, you'll find the Egyptian geese going ballistic. That egret flew off, just came back to its perch now after the fish eagle took off. And they also will eat carrion, so they'll scavenge, which is quite interesting. The darter, also known of course as the snake bird, because of the length of its neck. Now, Gabriel, you're asking how many eagle species there are in the park. Let's go through them quickly. In fact, we can probably do it in the book if you like, then you can see what they look like in case you don't know what they look like. We'll go with only the true eagles, I think. Okay, here we go. We'll do it quite quickly. There we get the booted eagle, we get the lesser spotted eagle, we get the Wahlberg's eagle. We get, no, not the long-crested, possibly sometimes, but not normally, Eurasian steppe, tawny eagle, that's 5. African hawk eagle, 6. Crowned eagle, not really, possibly once or twice, but let's just leave it at 6. African fish eagle, 7. Martial eagle, 8. Black eagle, not a chance. So it's 8 species of eagle that we find here. And that's just the true eagles. If you count the snake eagles, well, we've got another one, and then possibly what was the other one? A batelier. I suppose you might also consider as an eagle. Okay, good. I think we're going to actually have to move now, Fergus. Much as I don't want to, I'm quite enjoying myself here, but you know, my selfish needs must be subservient to the needs of the show and our movement. Okay, here we go. Yes, hey, Tina, you're wondering what kind of fish there are in this water. There are tilapia, a number of different species apparently, and barbel, or catfish, and that's probably about it. You might find that there are a few species of catfish, and then quite a few species of tilapia, but there won't be much more than that in here. You won't find psyllids, which you'd find in Lake Malawi, or nudibrax, the very colourful slugs that you might find on Dive Live, for example. Now, these two impala are not friends. And they're not friends because they are going into the rut now. Now, this chap is confused because he doesn't know, must he go after the person he doesn't like, or just go down this treacherous bank? He's chosen to go down the treacherous bank rather than spend any time with his mate over there. Funny how they like that, really. Okay, Tristan Deeks has managed to arrive at the northeastern corner of Djuma at a waterhole, whose name I shall not mention because he will tell you what it is.
Well, if we're in the northeastern corner, I'm sure pretty much every one of you, well, most of you will know exactly where we are. So we're at Beefle's Hoek, as James often says, and we are with the resident hippos that are here and taking it very easy in the beautiful afternoon sunshine. So from one dam with a whole bunch of hippos to another. It's nice to have a few more extras, or extra hippos in Beefle's Hoek Dam, rather than just the general one. It's nice to have the three of them here that have stayed for a few days or weeks now. Floyd, I've never seen hippos eat algae, to be honest with you. They don't seem to like it. Also, algae can be toxic, so too much blue-green algae in a animal system, and they can die from it. So they need to be a little bit careful. There is a bit of algae in the far corner, and so Floyd, that's what you're referring to, that kind of green layer, scum layer that you see in that corner where the wind is kind of coming from. That's the stuff that is referred to as blue-green algae, and it can be quite dangerous for animals, and I've never seen hippos actually eat it. In some areas of the Kruger National Park, there's some river systems that have duckweed, and so Brent and Steve will know about it very well, particularly in the Lubombo area. There's the Inwanetsi River, and there's a lot of duckweed there. And the hippos, it's actually quite fun, because when you track them, you can track them via the duckweed sort of bits that are dropping off the hippo as they walk, because as they climb out of the water, this weed sticks to them, and then as they walk, bits of duckweed drop off their body, and so not only do you get the tracks, but you get this duckweed that spreads all along the road or through the bush as they go. So pretty cool to see. And from there, I've seen them kind of munching on it, but it doesn't look like they actually eat it. They kind of just almost like they separate it and create a channel and then walk through. And then you'll find sometimes they'll even go after water hyacinth. They kind of munch on it a little bit, but I've never actually seen them ingesting it. It's not to say that they don't, they might do, but I've never actually seen them ingesting it personally. So it's interesting how they kind of generally like to feed off grasses for the most part, and especially now at this time of the year. Grass is what they're going to be after because of the amount of seed on that grass. It's the best kind of thing to be eating. It's full of nutrients, far better than eating soggy weeds that are in water. So, Steve McCarthy, we are in the northeastern corner of South Africa, in part of the Greater Kruger National Park, in an area called the Sabi Sands Game Reserve. So that is on the southwestern side of the Kruger National Park, and we are in the northern part of the Sabi Sands. So northeastern part of South Africa, southwestern part of the Greater Kruger, and the northern part of that Sabi Sand area in an area called Djuma. So We're in a prime area for wildlife. It's an amazing part of the world, and this kind of northern Sabi Sands area often is very underrated. When you kind of speak to many people that have worked in the Sabi Sands, and not many of them know much about this northern area, but it is really quite a special place. We don't have the sort of beauty of the Sand or Sabi River in this particular section, but we do have the most amazing sort of wildlife and seriously a lot of kind of interactivity between the animals, and I think that's what makes this particular section so sort of successful. And also obviously a very kind of high population of the spotted cats is also a good thing. So it's a good area to be. It's one of my favorite sections of the Sabi Sands. I mean, I've worked in the southern, central and northern parts of the Sabi Sand, and I can promise you that up here is probably the best game viewing of the lot, to be honest, on its day. I mean, obviously there's quiet days from time to time. Cindy, I'm afraid not. It's not great terrain for cheetah, so we're in an area, as you can see, that's quite dense, it's quite thick, it's quite rough, and that makes it perfect for leopard and not cheetah. Cheetah prefer a little bit more open sections. You know, this area, there's two reasons for it. One is that hunting for them is very difficult. They can't really get up to top speed and be able to turn and twist and kind of do their thing. And secondly, they run into a lot of other predators in here because they can't see what's going on. So they chase and then they hit into wild dogs and lion and leopard and all these kind of things. So this is an area that's far better known for its leopard population. We have a really high leopard kind of percentage if you have to compare it to our other predators. In fact, more leopards than lions, I would say, even in this particular area, unless that's kind of a little bit more, but very few cheetah. There's in this particular area we see a female with 1 point and then 2 males that also come. Right. Now, I believe we are going to get a few little technical glitches as we go through here. The gremlins are not ideal when we drive in this section, so hopefully they stay away and we don't have that. I just want to double check as we go. No barn owl there today. So there was a barn owl that used to live in a tree that was on my left-hand side, but it's disappeared now. So it's not there. I only saw it there. I saw it there twice, and then that was it, unfortunately. Right, now I'm going to carry on down this road. Hopefully there's not going to be any more gremlins while I do that. Let's send you to Brent, who is sitting next to some water.
Herbie, don't run away. We're having a meeting. I thought Herb knew. We're having a meeting about what to do next. So we decided, so Herbie, you can't run away now. We decided to come check this little waterhole here. She drank here last night. And you can just see tracks. Very, very faint tracks from where she drank last night here. She came down here. Okay. Not fresh. So we thought maybe if she'd been away from the cub for a while, she might have brought the cub down here. This is the closest water we know about for a drink. But she hasn't. So we're back to the drawing board. So there we've got tracks going north and south. So we've checked down to the south, and this is the sort of likely spot they might have come for a drink. Nothing here. So that's why we're sitting here, drawing ourselves towards ourselves, trying to figure out our next plan. Our next plan is probably to head north. Hey, Herbie? Let's go head north. We found the spot where the cub was being kept, and they've been playing around. Herbie's running away now. We're going to go see if we can find the cub, hopefully, and maybe Tandia as well. She might have left to go hunting if she wasn't successful. And, well, who knows? No, I'm not sure I'm linking to. So it's either James or Tristan. One's either on Chitwa. It is James on Chitwa with a Traphalagus antelope.
Now, please, when we go back to Brent, will you tell him that it is not a Traphalagus? Brent says Traphalagus, it's a Tragelaphid. G first, then P-H. Tragelaphid. Nicola, you did not hear it wrong. Nicola's now blaming herself. Brent always says Traphalagus. And I said to him the other day, I said, Brent, it's Tragelaphid, not Traphalagus. He said, oh, it doesn't matter, it's the same thing, which is inescapably untrue. Anyway, a A traffer-legged or tragger-leopard, as you might, whatever you wish, is a kudu, nyala, bushbuck, sitatunga, a bongo, and there are a couple of others, a lesser kudu, a mountain nyala, and possibly a few others. I've left my really special mammal guide at home. Anyway, and this is the biggest of them, or the second, the eland are also them. So this is the second biggest of them, I think, and that is the greater kudu of southern Africa. Now that greater kudu of southern Africa looks to me like it is very emaciated, and I don't know why it should be. There is plenty to eat, so I wonder if it doesn't have a disease of some sort, some kind of illness precluding its good health. Okay, I think we should continue now. That is a I'm good. Tragger-leopard. Tragger-leopard, yes, not traffer-legged. You can remember it because it's the g first and the p afterwards, which is the same as it would occur in the alphabet. That's it. Thank you very much, Nicola. Tragger-leopard, not traffer-legged. I mean, saying that it's the same thing is like saying, well, you can call it an impala, or you can call it pimala. It really doesn't matter. It's the same thing. A pimala. There's a pimala over there. No, this is not the same. Monique in London, you want to know what a lesser kudu is? Well, it's a slightly smaller kudu that doesn't occur here. It occurs up in northern East Africa, as far as I remember. I have a wonderful book with all of the distributions. I don't know where I put the thing. I hope I didn't leave it on my holiday. I'll go and check in my bookshelf. But it's got all of the wonderful distributions of all these creatures in Africa. And the lesser kudu is just slightly smaller than the greater kudu we have here. We are now on the airstrip. We are not going to fly anywhere. We're just going to do a trip down the southern boundary of Chitwa and see if we come up with anything there. Bobby, you want to know if an animal still dies of disease, will the predator still eat it? I think it depends quite largely on what disease it has died from. So we've had actually a little bit of a discussion about this informally around the camp. What is a disease? Well, a disease, as far as I understand it, is any form of illness. So it might be an infection, like a fungal or bacterial or viral infection, with some pathogen has invaded the body. And if an animal dies of a disease like that, well, then I think it's quite possible that the predators might smell it and decide, no, that could infect us, it could make us sick. But, I mean, obviously that's not always the case, because predators eat animals that have died of anthrax, for example, which is what is anthrax? I've forgotten now. It's not a bacteria, I think it's a fungus. I think it's a fungal disease, is it? I think so. Anyway, animals will eat, or predators will eat animals that have died of anthrax, so that's definitely an indicator of one disease that an animal might die of, which won't affect the predators, or won't affect the animals eating it. But I think if you find an animal has died of septicemia or something like that, from a bacterial infection, I think you'll find some predators would avoid it. But other sorts of diseases, like perhaps some kind of neurological disease, or an autoimmune disease, or a disease caused by a deficiency of nutrients, like that white muscle disease, for example, I don't think that would necessarily affect a predator's desire to eat animals. And in fact, we know that the Nkuhuma Pride, during the white muscle disease event of 2 years ago, which I will explain to you shortly, we know that they were eating buffalo that were nutritionally deficient, certainly seemed to be diseased in many cases. So no, in general, no, I would say predators do not avoid prey with diseases. White muscle disease, for those of you who don't know, we had a big drought in 2016, I think it was. Is that correct? Was it 2016? Yeah, 2016. And the buffalo got thinner and thinner and thinner. The lions ate more and more and more of them, and eventually some of them got sick. They got this strange disease caused by a deficiency of vitamin E and selenium, which we think they picked up because their prey wasn't getting any vitamin E and selenium. And we lost a few cubs. It was very interesting, if slightly disturbing. Now kestrel fox, you want to know if antelope like Kruger can get bovine tuberculosis? Yes, they can. Absolutely. And so we would expect most of the kudu here to be infected with bovine tuberculosis, because bovine TB, of course, is almost ubiquitous in the Kruger Park area. How it affects them, I think you'll find it probably doesn't really. They may struggle in times of drought, much like the buffalo, and in times of nutritional distress you'll find the disease, much like with human beings. If you have a compromised immune system, tuberculosis will come out in human beings, very difficult to treat then, and I think it's the same with the animals out here. Most of us carry TB in our bodies, believe it or not, human tuberculosis. Yes, those of you sitting around your computers or TV screens as I speak to you, you're all touching your chests now thinking, me, I don't have tuberculosis. You may well have tuberculosis in you, but it won't affect you. Nikki's touching her throat. It'll be your lungs, Nick, not your throat. But as long as you're not immune compromised through bad diet or disease, or an immune disease like HIV, it won't affect you. Consumption, and of course we can treat consumption these days. And that's interesting also, as Nikki says, she said, notice balls on the elbows of the Nkuhuma pride. So lions get these kind of swellings, these almost tumors on their elbows, which we think is quite possibly caused by bovine tuberculosis. How it affects lions or not, there were great dire warnings that the lions are all going to drop dead sort of 10 years ago or 15 years ago when I started doing this, or started in the bush, and I don't believe that it has had any effect on lion numbers. It possibly, like with all the other animals, when they get old and decrepit and during times of nutritional distress, it probably does affect them. But otherwise, I think they live pretty normal lives, like those of you sitting around your computers, unknowingly harboring tuberculosis. What an interesting and slightly disturbing discussion. Right, we're going to go down back towards the dam now and see if we can find Tingana. Let's go back across to Tristan now and find out from him if he has tuberculosis.
I hope not. That will be very unfortunate if I do. I feel like that might hinder my plans for future endeavors quite a lot, but hopefully not. I haven't been coughing. Jared's been coughing. He came back from leave coughing and sputtering. Maybe he's the guy that's going to be the tuberculosis man for Wild Earth. I don't have it. Craig, do you have it? Can bats get tuberculosis? I don't even know if they can. Maybe not, I'm not sure. But that's we'll have to ask and see. Can bats get tuberculosis? Anyone know? Hashtag Safari Live, let me know if they can. It would be interesting to just kind of find out if they can get it. I don't think so. I've never read about bats getting TB, so I would be very surprised if they do. Sinak, I actually haven't been to Chitwa very much of late, and so I don't actually have any updates on our barn owl and chicks. Maybe James can go there this afternoon? Hint, hint, James. Nudge, nudge, wink, wink. Although I don't think James knows where the barn owl nest is. I'll have to explain it to him. Nikki, you'll have to tell him that it's in the drainage line, the little dip on the southern side of Chitwa dam wall when he's going away from the dam wall towards the cut line. In that dip, the little hummock on the northern side of the road. That's where he needs to look in there. And I don't know who's with him. If Viam's with him, Viam knows where it is. So Viam can actually take James to where the barn owl nest is. So hopefully we'll kind of get a situation where we can see what's going on. Otherwise, I will head there the next time I'm on Chitwa, which will hopefully be in the next day, because otherwise I won't be there for quite some time. So we'll try and go and get an update for you. It's very cool to see that nest, and I don't know if anybody else has been there. I think one or two others have tried to have a look, and it's very difficult to actually see anything. You've got to kind of pay a little bit of attention, and you've got to sort of sit for a little bit and wait for some movement. Otherwise, you just think that nothing is actually there. Now, we've had a very dry afternoon thinking about nothing that's been there. We've seen pretty much zero besides our 3 hippos bobbing at Buffelshoek Dam. Very few birds, not even a duiker or a steenbok. Have we seen a duiker or a steenbok, Craig? I can't think of one. Oh yes, we did see one duiker, we did, as we left Buffelshoek Dam, bolting off into the distance. But otherwise it's been fairly kind of quiet, not very much going on at all. So I don't know where all our animals are, particularly our elephants. It's time for the ellies to come back now. Enough of this gallivanting to other parts of the Kruger National Park. It's, you know, they've had their spring break, or should we say autumn break. It's now time for them to start coming back to Djuma so that we can see them, because it's enough now. No elephants is not good for one's soul. Now, there was a dwarf mongoose that just ran across the road. Let's stop here and see. Maybe we'll have them coming out. I can hear them squeaking around me at the moment, but none out just yet. Jean, indeed, animals have gone on holiday. It's they did inform us. They said to us, you know, it's getting to that time of the year where you guys start to get colder weather. It's been a bit rainy. It's not really for us, and so we're going to pack up and go for a few days, and we'll come back when we feel like it. But like I say, we didn't agree on exactly how long, which is a bit disappointing. The animals just decided they would do it without our consent, and anyway, it's causing a little bit of a hassle. They need to come back now. It's enough. We've had a few quiet days, and hopefully they'll come back. No, in all seriousness, it's because of the conditions we've had weather-wise. So we've had, you know, very poor rains, and it's been cold, and it's been a bit miserable, and that's never great game viewing weather. You very seldom get very good game viewing weather in that. And so, you know, it's a situation where as the sun comes out like this, and we get maybe 2 or 3 warm days, so you'll start to see the animals starting to come out, water starts to dry up, and animals then have to move to the more sort of dedicated water points that are closer towards roads, and it just becomes a lot easier to track. The roads start to dry out and are not this crispy, crusty, muddy nonsense that we have in front of us at the moment, which chances of seeing a track on this is almost zero. So those are the kind of things we need to kind of hope for, is a little bit of dry conditions, a bit of sun, and then the animals will be out again. It's just a kind of coincidence, really, that they are disappeared. And also we have a situation where 2 of our dominant individuals are leopard-wise, are basically off kind of having a little sort of romantic rendezvous in the western side, so they'll have to come back hopefully in the next few days. Now, Nikki, I'm sorry I didn't get the name. I got the question, but I didn't get the name. Gary Mobs, the highest I've ever seen Gowrie Dam is probably much higher than you can actually believe. But I've seen it overflowing on top of that dam wall. So where we drive every time over the dam wall, I've seen the water going over there. I even saw it at the point where the wall broke, and then all the water ran out, which was very, very sad and not very good at all. Oh, you'll never believe it. Look what we have, Craig. We have found an animal. This is going to be amazing. Everyone hold on to your seatbelts. This is exciting stuff. We have an animal that is probably going to disappear fairly shortly. There we go. There's a kudu. Yes, I know. I can't believe it myself. There is a 4-legged critter that actually walks around in the Sabi sands. For a while there, it looked as though there would be nothing, but they are out. And hopefully this is a good sign. There's some more of them that are kind of coming off to our left-hand side. We might have to actually try and see if I can maybe just get a better view. Or in fact, no, we're not going to get a better view because Mr. James Henry has stolen the show once again, and we need to now send you to him because, well, he's got a far more interesting animal than a kudu.
Well, it's an interesting animal, but the view of this interesting animal is nothing short of disastrous. I'll let Fergus show you. There he is. It's Tingana, everybody. Fergus spotted him. We came through this area known as Tristan's Drift. That's what I like to call it anyway. It used to be called Hosanna's Haunt, but has since become his father's place. And as we drove in, well, there he was. He stood up and he walked and he lay down there. He's breathing quite happily. He looked in relatively decent condition when he stood up. I mean, he's not once what he was, not what he once was, but he looks okay. And I believe he has been spending a lot of time here, so I don't think we're going to go anywhere from here. Now, for those of you who are perhaps new viewers, Tingana is a male leopard, one of our very favourites in the world, and I keep forgetting these leopards' ages. I think he's pushing his 13th birthday now. And so he's sort of coming to the end of his time because his territory has been taken over by the great Hukumori, terrifying male leopard that has come on to Djuma and taken over the territory of good old Tingana. Anyway, that's just what happens out here, really, you know. And many of you are very pleased indeed that we have managed to find him. I'm sure you are. I don't look, although this is really a fairly dreadful view of one of our most famous leopards, I think it will be worth sitting here for a little while and seeing if he doesn't stand up and do something useful over the last little while. Over the next little while, not the last little while. And so that is going to be our plan. Alrighty, while we wait for Tingana and find out if he's going to do anything, let's go back to Tristan, who does not have tuberculosis, but maybe what he's looking at does.
Yes, I don't have tuberculosis, James. Well, we can do a test just to confirm, should you want to, just to make sure that I'm not going to be the carrier of bad things. But our kudu has disappeared. Of course they would. They were very nicely on top of the termite mound. No, Rusty, do not start your nonsense with me. No, Rusty wants to start its nonsense. Why, Craig? What have you done to Rusty? No. Doesn't want to. It says no. Now, Nikki, you can sit with us for as long as you like. There's many things that are happening except animals that are around us. And so if you want to sit with us, we're quite happy to sit here. It doesn't really bother me too much. We have the sun that is sitting. It's a nice golden coloration that is around. There's a few trees. Absolutely no birds. But that's okay. We'll be able to kind of figure it out at some point. And maybe we'll find something to show all of you. There's a beautiful blue sky at least, which is quite nice. Anyway, there we go. Craig, thanks for the blue sky, Craig. There we go. So while we try and get Rusty sorted out, let's send you back across to James.
Well, we are still here, and alas and alack, he has not moved. I think you're probably back here simply because Tristan has managed to break his car, which is normally the preserve of Brent Leo Smith, of course, because he's wearing that magnificent lime shirt, green shirt. I quite like that shirt, actually. And because he's wearing that, of course, no one can say anything nasty about him. Now, I suppose I could try and move, but I know, I don't think... No. Now, Linda, because you can't... Brent doesn't have any signal at the moment, so you can't ask him this question. But I do think you should ask him, along with the sort of request to get him to say Leopard. You want to know if that bright green colour is a good colour to wear in the bush. It's not a bad colour. It's not the only thing bad about it, I suppose, and I really don't mean that it is a bad colour, is that it's relatively reflective, which means that I suppose if the sun was shining directly on Brent, then he might be quite easy to see. But that green colour in the drainage system that he's walking through now, looking for Tandi and Tlalamba, well, I think you'll find that it's actually a pretty good colour. We often have discussions on bush fashion, and of course the most fashion talented of us is up in Kenya at the moment. That is Scott Dyson. Remarkable taste that he has in fashion. His mother gets him all sorts of interesting clothes from cheap outlets in various parts of Durban that most of us wouldn't dare to go, and that's why he looks so good all the time. So he would be better qualified to talk about this than I am, being the snappy dresser that he is. But because he is in Kenya, I will do it for him. Basically, animals are, as we know, red colourblind, so they don't see red. And so anything that is sort of vaguely blue or green, they will probably pick up. They'll pick up bright blue, but a pale blue greyish colour. Grey is a great colour to wear out here if you want to be hidden. It's a deeply unattractive colour. If you're only dressed in grey, you look like a depressed schoolboy. So that's why I don't wear grey all the time. But greens and browns and those sorts of things work very well. And I love how in the Mara everybody's totally tossed that tradition away, and they just wear red, because that's such a Maasai colour. And I think the reds and blues, they're wonderful. What a gorgeous afternoon to be sitting in the presence of this old leopard in a magnificent grove of knobthorn, tambuti, various other kinds of trees, marulas. What else have we got? We've got some russet bush willows, reeds. There is the marula tree that I was talking about, possibly the old leadwood, an enormous apple leaf, some jackalberries, and all around us the birds starting to come home after a long day of toil at work. There's the sun slowly starting to disappear. That's very pretty, Fergus. Well, of course, yes, many of you are talking about Senzo's fashionista style, and he is very much a fashionista. Whether I would call him a bush fashionista or not, I think, no, in fact, I know I wouldn't. He is not a bush fashionista. He is a fashionista, of course. But while we wait for other people to get signal of Tingana to move, I'll tell you a story about Senzo. Senzo was in town the other day and I had to fetch him, but his phone ran out of charge. And so he went to a hair salon and said, would you mind if I plugged my phone in just enough so that I can make one phone call? And they said, forget it, we don't do charging here. If you want to charge your phone, you have to have a haircut. So he said, okay, fine. And he plugged his phone in. And, I don't know when the last time you saw Senzo was, but he's got quite a lot of hair on the top of his head. And when he emerged from the salon, having phoned me, he looked something like a sort of recalcitrant little girl. He had 5 or 6, I suppose you'd call them pigtails, coming out of the top of his head. They were sort of half braids. They were subsequently been braided onto his head. But they weren't onto his head at the time, so he had this sort of spiky look about him as he came out, but he managed to phone me, and he didn't much look like a fashionista then. Well, I suppose you can have your hair any way you like these days. The less cut it looks, the more fashionable it is, apparently. I'm, of course, not troubled by such things being bald. Ah, yes. In fact, that's a very good idea. I was speaking about blue in the bush, and Fergus is just saying, good idea to get Brent to take the camera and show you Senzo in his blue outfit today. All right, well, let's now go across to the great fashionista himself, the lime one and the blue one, and you can judge their fashion sense for yourselves.
Well, I just found this little guy. Hey, don't even think about climbing in there. Hey. On my legs. So we do get them from time to time. These guys aren't as bad as the minuscule pepper ticks that are the babies of these that can cover your leg by their thousands, but we're going to say goodbye to this tick before he decides to latch into somewhere on me. Oh, there we go. Now, so apparently some people are a bit worried about my green shirt. Now, here we go. Let me pass this here, Sense. There we go. Oh, Linda. There's Senzo in his blue shirt and his denim shorts. Now, how's that hairdo? Let's have a look. So, James is very confused. Wait, let me put my stick down so I can actually use this camera properly. Hold on for a second, guys. Now, James is very confused. That is nothing like pigtails. It's like a half. What would you describe it as, Sense? What would you describe your hair tail? I mean, half of it's been braided and half of it hasn't.
It's a style.
It's a style. You don't know what style, but it's a style. There we go, Sense. We're not sure what the style is, but it's a style. Okay. Linda, strangely enough, the two worst colours to wear in the bush are black and white. And so most animals, and particularly your cats and things like that, see in various shades of sort of grey green, and they don't see too much detail. Their eyes are designed to pick up movement. So one of the biggest misconceptions that you are told when you go on safari is wear neutral colours, wear this. You can wear bright luminous orange. The animals don't care. The other people on your safari vehicle might be offended though. I think it's more just to not offend everyone else. So a green like this, even though it is quite bright, there's definitely more green out in the bush than there is khaki for that matter, especially at this time of the year. But no, it's perfectly safe to wear. There's absolutely nothing wrong with it. This is actually one of my forest shirts from Gabon. So it's more the material and stuff that doesn't fade. It's got, actually, I think these are sun retardant material anyway. It breathes nicely, it's cool. So especially when you're walking, it's quite nice to wear. Senzo, I can't talk about his blue, but as I say, blue, green, even brighter blues and stuff like that doesn't actually make a difference to the animals. Benny likes Senzo's hair. I'm surprised there's not a thumb coming around there, Benny, but Senzo's holding the camera very steadily. There we go. Spara says the hair is cool. So there we go, Senz. Never listen to James. He's a fuddy-duddy, an old fuddy-duddy, with no hair. Yes, here we go. We're the bright team, Senz. We're winning today. We're going to win even more if we find Tandy. I can hear a car on the boundary. So just always important to trust your ears. If you're not sure about something, just stop and listen. Well, it's not Tristan, because I give him my car for one day and he manages to break it. I think it's his tactic before going to the Mara. There you go. Nice little hornbill sunning himself there. You see him, Sense? On the dry branch there. Yellow-billed hornbill. Catching the last afternoon rays, which we're not going to see for too much longer, as we're in the shadow of a little crest. Now, we think Tundi might have made a kill at some point, and she's come back to fetch the cub. And we're just trying to now figure out, because we've got tracks of her coming in from the north, we've got tracks of her coming in from the south. However, we think the tracks from the north are her returning from her hunt, and the tracks all around this area that we've been looking at, a lot of them look like it's where she fetched the cub and was playing with the cub. So we're going to head south and check the Mawati below the dam wall. Did anyone hear any alarm calls on the dam cam today? Now, of course, this time of the year can be quite difficult. Let's move faster. As I was talking about alarm calls, and that's just where we came from. Well, where we started our bushwalk, we came through that area onto the tracks. So there was a Franklin screaming, not just alarm calling, screaming like something just tried to catch it. Herbie's up ahead. I mean, it could be a slender mongoose. It could be a little gabar goshawk. But I mean, the fact that we've got so many fresh leopard tracks around here, it's definitely worth having a squiz. Now, hopefully she has made a kill somewhere close by. So there are tracks of her coming south we're talking about, and you can see how faint they are and how you've really got to be on your game to see them. Now, Herbie showed me the tracks that James was struggling to see this morning. They were there, but as I say, it also just depends. Different times of the day, different times of light makes tracks easier to see, and that's why we're lucky to have someone like Herbie. Now, let's go across to the old fuddy-duddy who has no sense of fashion or fun, James Hendry.
I have no sense of fashion or fun at all. I think that's a bit rough, given that I, frankly, said that I thought Brent's shirt was very nice. So I don't think this is very nice of him at all to say what he did about me. And so I take it back. I think his shirt's horrible. Horrible. Disgusting. It seems to be something of a thing with Taylor and Brent to cast aspersions on my great age and therefore call me a fuddy-duddy. Something just jumped in that water. Did you see that, Fergus?
I see the ripples and I heard the...
You heard the plop. Tingana did not react at all. Mickey says there are lots of crocodiles that we see here. Nicola, would you just define lots of crocodiles? Oh, little ones. Okay. Oh, there are two. Oh, I see. Okay, two, not lots then. But there could be one there. There's definitely quite a lot of ripples and movement down through there. Everyone, if you have just joined us, that is Tingana the male leopard, and he's not moving anywhere, and so I don't think we should go anywhere just yet. And apparently Nicola can see a green-backed heron there. That's very impressive. Can you see a green-backed heron, Fergus? I can't see a green-backed heron. I'd love to cast aspersions on Nicola right now, but I'm unable to because she's seldom wrong about these things. She says, Tingana's not going anywhere, let's go and investigate. That's probably quite a good idea. My worry is that we're going to lose signal if I go anywhere forward. So if we do, I'm sorry. Let's just nip forward. Alright. She's now telling me where to drive to find the green-backed heron. It's probably Hosanna eating a green-backed heron. I'm just going to stick my head through here. Watch our head, Ferg. I don't see any green-backed heron there, do you, Fergus? See any green-backed herons? Lots of crocodiles? Do you see lots of crocodiles anywhere?
No, not even.
I don't see half of lots of crocodiles either. Anyway, something went plop into the water here. There is, of course, also a black-crowned night heron that spends some time around here. We might be able to spot him. He has a nest here somewhere. But I don't see him anywhere here. I suppose also I should call Tingana in on the radio, which I shall do when we next go off air. When you go to Brent and ask him to say the word traffic-legged. No, not more. There are some ripples. Maybe that's lots of crocodiles popping their heads up. Could be. And that's what it was. That's what went plop. It's gas under the water. Whether it's a creature releasing gas from the mud or just the mud becoming overwhelmed with decaying plant matter and therefore sort of popping with gas, I'm not sure. There's lots of it actually, lots of gas coming out of the water here. Like a hot sulphurous spring. No, not much. Okay, let's go back to the leopard. Now, Una, you're wondering if there are many mosquitoes around the spot. Una, I don't see any. I haven't been bitten here, but it's possible that there are quite a few mosquitoes around. I suspect as the sun goes down, yes, we will see quite a few more mosquito in this area. Shall we reverse through there and see if we aren't very lucky and get a better look at Tingana? Yes, he's right in the middle of that lot there. Okay, let's go back again. So, Una, yes, I mean there are lots of mosquitoes around at the moment. Okay, let's go back to Brent and find out if those alarm calls bore any fruit.
Well, we're quite convinced it's the cub. And for some reason, this cub really doesn't like being found on foot. Now, this is from a bit earlier today, where Mom was playing with the cub. You can see that deep pushes down and jumps. And I think the cub is hiding in that thicket. We walked through it, and the reason I think it was the cub, or Kalamba, is that the francolin were up in the tree. So with most things, even with slender mongoose, they'll normally shout and run along the ground and take off and land on the ground. But with something like a leopard, they land up in a tree. And I just don't think this little one wants to be found on foot when Mom's not here. So we're almost certain we know where it is for tomorrow morning. I don't want to put any excess pressure. So I'm going to leave the area, but I'm going to be in a car tomorrow morning, and I'm going to come straight back here first thing. And that'll be able to, if we can find tracks of Mom coming back or whatnot. So it's one of those, so it's quite a difficult one. Some leopards just really don't like being found on foot, and some cubs, and also especially with the amount of stress these leopards are going through at the moment with Hokamuri and Shadulu and Tingana sort of falling off his throne. I think maybe we'll just give them a little bit of space. If Mom's there, it's a very different story. Tandi's been walked a lot since she was a cub. So if we were sort of more sure that Mom hadn't left out hunting, I think we'd poke around there a little bit more. But the fact that Mom isn't there, it's going to be a little bit sensitive. I'm going to move away from the area, and hopefully tomorrow we can find her with Mom, and then hopefully that'll make them a little bit more relaxed. But in the meantime, I've got a question for all of you, and I suppose it's quite a fitting question. I've been thinking about it a little bit since James found Tingana, that he is coming sort of towards the end of his reign. There's a possibility he might fight the good fight for an incredibly long time like Mvula did and just keep hanging on, or he might sort of come down a lot faster. So I'm just thinking, what's your favorite Tingana sighting? I've been thinking, and I think which is one of mine. I think maybe not my favorite sighting of Tingana, but one of my favorite Tingana experiences was the first time I found him on foot, when he was very, very seldom coming into Djuma. He had just started pushing into Djuma, and we were around Treehouse Dam, and on camera with me was that absolute nutter, Andrew Francis. And heard some alarm calls, and I got off the car, and I walked up, and I'd found male leopard tracks, and walked slowly. I spotted him, and he spotted me, and we sort of stared at each other, and I was like, okay, I know where you are, and sort of did the, I'm not looking, I actually don't know where you are, but sort of keeping my one eye on him while I rushed back to get the car. Got the car, drove back. I think even Nicola, who was directing this afternoon, was directing that afternoon. Or morning. It was a morning. Yes, it was a morning. And so while we're there, and we got back to where I'd spotted him, and gone. It was about this time of the year as well, so there's quite a lot of grass, quite a lot of thickets. So Nikki's like, we need to come to you for an update. So she came to us, and I was like, I'm sorry, I found a leopard on foot, but now it's gone. And so I was said, I'm just going to jump off the car, I'm going to have another walk through here, I know he's right here, and then hopefully we'll find him. So then Nikki said, link to James or to Scotty, whoever it might have been. And I was like, okay, let's go across to James. And as I linked to her, I pulled my earpiece out to go walk, and I did this. 1, 2, oh, whoa, and straight back into the car. So I'd been standing out of the car, talking to camera, and there was a fallen log less than 1.5 meters away from me, and I took 2 steps, and he was underneath that log staring at me the whole time. But so, no, not one of my best sightings, but definitely one of my favorite Tingana experiences. And then later that day, I actually got my favorite photograph of Tingana. I ended up having a diker kill in the jackalberry tree there, and I took my favorite photograph of Tingana. I'll try to find it just now for you. Yeah, as just thinking about Mr. Tingana. What a lovely chap he has been for us, even albeit for a relatively short time compared to other male leopards. So he got pushed by Anderson quite late in his age. So he was quite old when he already took over the Djuma sort of area. And it's tough out here. Then the young up-and-coming contender, Hokomore, has made his move.